January 20th at 250. In Rome, Emperor Decius had a serious problem. He believed the very survival of the Roman Empire was at stake. The world he ruled was cracking at the seams. Barbarian tribes were raiding the frontiers. A devastating plague was emptying the cities, and decades of civil war had destroyed public trust in the government. For Decius, these weren't just random misfortunes. He was convinced that Rome had angered the gods. For centuries, Roman religion had been a public affair, a shared ritual that bound everyone together. Sacrifices, festivals, and public oaths were the glue that held the state and its people in a sacred pact. But by the middle of the 3rd century, many Romans had stopped participating. The most notable group? The Christians. They worshipped their own god in private. They refused to sacrifice to the Roman gods. Crucially, they rejected the idea that the emperor himself was divine. To Decius, this wasn't just a matter of personal faith. It was an act of political rebellion. So on January 20th to 50, he issued an edict that echoed across the entire empire. Every single citizen, from Britain to Egypt, was ordered to perform a public sacrifice to the Roman gods for the health and safety of the emperor. And you had to prove you did it. Officials would issue a certificate, called a libellus, as proof of your loyalty. This wasn't the first time Christians faced pressure, but the scale was unprecedented. Previous persecutions had been local, sporadic, and often driven by mob anger. Decius's decree was a systematic, empire-wide policy. Officials set up altars in public squares. They called out names from official lists. You were forced to make a choice, right then and there. The response was fractured. Some Christians buckled under the pressure and made the sacrifice. Others went into hiding or fled to the countryside. But many refused. The consequences were severe: imprisonment, the seizure of property, exile, and for some, execution. Church leaders were specifically targeted, with bishops being arrested in an attempt to break the community's spirits. The persecution itself was short-lived. Decius was killed in battle just over a year later, and the policy fell apart. But the damage was done. The Christian church was thrown into turmoil. Fierce debates erupted. What should be done with those who had sacrificed and now wanted to return? Who held true authority, the martyrs who had refused, or the clergy who had survived? Meanwhile, Rome didn't get the stability Decius had hoped for. The gods didn't magically restore order. The crises continued. The decree of January 20th to 50 ultimately showed the limits of an emperor's power. You could command an army, you could issue laws, but you couldn't force belief. The Roman state was still a giant, but the shared faith that had once united it was fading. Belief was becoming a personal choice, not a public duty. This single date reveals a moment when an empire, desperate to hold itself together, only ended up exposing just how deeply it was already divided. Thanks for watching. Join us tomorrow for another date, another story from our shared past. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.